Welcome to my channel, you little orange pumpkins! I'm gonna try to keep the intro short, as there are a lot of illustrations to talk about in this video. For the month of October, I decided to create my own challenge instead of following popular prompt lists, such as the Inktober one for example, as they never really inspired me, plus I'm really bad at sticking to them. There was only one rule for this challenge: I had to draw a villain every other day. And for those of you who can't be bothered to do the math, that's 16 illustrations in a month. Did I make it? I don't know, let's find out together. Starting off strong with probably one of my favorite drawings of this whole challenge. The first villain is Huion from The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. I had to make some big decisions with this one, as it would have dictated how I would have had to make all the other drawings, since I wanted everything to look nice and cohesive. I settled for either a portrait or a bust-up with no background, as that would have made the drawing process quicker for me. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the villains didn't necessarily have to be from any horror media just because it's spooky season. In fact, I tried to avoid that altogether. I used to watch The Mummy and The Mummy Returns quite a lot as a kid with my parents. It's actually a very fun watch, and it always manages to bring me some comfort. I highly recommend it. For my second illustration, I decided to draw Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, one of my favorite franchises of all time. At least the first 3 movies, because the other ones after have always disappointed me, and now I pretend they don't exist. I honestly thought that it would have been more difficult to draw Davy Jones due to all the tentacles and stuff, as I tend to get confused a lot if there are too many details intertwining, but it was surprisingly easy, and I'm actually satisfied of the end result. Drawing this actually reminded me of my last year illustration of the Mind Flayer Emperor from Baldur's Gate 3. I have to admit though that this one actually turned out way better, and it looks more epic. I couldn't just not include Sauron in this challenge, as Lord of the Rings is yet another big source of comfort and inspiration for me. I'm also currently in the process of rereading the books, which is something I wanted to do again for the longest time. I started struggling a little bit with this illustration, as I never draw armor, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with this hand cover thingy. In the end, it all turned out well, and I'm happy with this one too. For the next set of illustrations, I decided that I would draw villains from cartoons and anime. Here I'm drawing Valtor from the 3rd season of the Winx Club. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but after season 3, the series went a little bit downhill for me, and I ended up dropping it after season 4 was done, which is quite a shame since it's basically my childhood, but it is what it is, I guess. I don't know why, but I was struggling so hard while attempting to draw Valtor's face. I just couldn't get it right for the longest time, and I ended up kind of giving up on it. I just wanted to be done with this one and just move on. The next fan art features Frieza from Dragon Ball Z and Super. There's not much to say about this, as I quickly made it to explain my drawing process for my previous video, which by the way is already on my channel. You can check that out if you're interested. I've actually picked up the Dragon Ball series only a year and a half ago on my partner's request, and I have absolutely loved it. And now I'm also kinda sad that I didn't watch it sooner. And here comes the bane of my existence. I despise this drawing. I am ashamed of even sharing this drawing. I was running out of time and decided to rush this one in under an hour so that I could have something to post on time. This is when I realized why I've always despised these challenges. I would always want to fully complete them, but the reality is that I will never have enough time to make a fully finished illustration that I will be proud of in a single day. I looked back at some of my old illustrations from last year, which I still find super nice and amazing. And the reason why that's the case is because they were made out of pure enjoyment and love for the process and the character I was drawing. But most of all, there were no time restrictions. Doing this challenge was actually very important for me to realize that I really value quality over quantity. Spoiler alert! Because of this newfound realization, I did not end up making 16 illustrations this month. I'm sorry. As I was progressing through the challenge, I allowed myself to have a little bit more time to work on a few more drawings before the end of the month. So the next villain I picked was Loki, as he is my favorite character from the whole MCU. This particular version is a little bit of a mix between the comic version and one of the other Lokis from the TV show. I still had to rush a little bit to finish this one, but since I also allowed myself to work a little bit more on it, I could actually make a more complex and interesting dynamic with the pose and the background. It's still very simple, but I am decently satisfied with how this one turned out. Up next is Hawkmoth from Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. Nothing much to say about this one. I don't like the final adjustments I did with the liquify tool, but it is what it is at this point. However, I do like the color palette. It's actually my favorite one out of all the illustrations. Last but not least, I decided to draw Scar from The Lion King. I rarely draw animals, so this was a fun change for me. I didn't want to stylize it too much or make it look exactly like the original version, so I looked for some references of real lions and then I simply enhanced the facial expressions a little bit. I had to keep the same color palette so that it would help with the identification of the character, since it's drawn in a different style. And that's it for this challenge. I ended up making 9 illustrations instead of the 16 initial ones. But overall, I'm still decently satisfied with the result, and I'm happy that I managed to stick to a theme for a whole month. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know which villain was your favorite, and I'll see you again soon. Peace!